If I ask you to think about museum, what comes to your mind? A beautiful building, a white room, your favorite piece of art, the feeling of being amazed? I reflected, researched, and understood my relationship with the museum. I always loved art, but I do not always have loved museums. Museums for me are a construction around art, a magic space to get lost into. Everything that is displayed in it is framed and considered in view of being set in it. The museum is a context, and we tend to accept it as it is. I wanted to go beyond that. What we see and do not see in museum is linked to larger questions about how have been defined our society, our community, and our agency. Art is a way to encounter diversity and go against discrimination. But in the museum, things tend to be put in a box. There are still untold stories and excluded artists who have been considered not enough European or betraying their origins. Museums speak often about inclusivity, but maybe instead of including more and making something else fit in the parameters, we should disrupt the borders and change those parameters. Museums are a place of cultural production. According to Walter Benjamin, this means reflecting the condition of the society. Indeed, from the cabinet of curiosity, they have always resembled the contemporary. And the white cube led to the more visible change when it became the ritual of consumers. The ritual of separation that triggers the motion of our market-based society inside a museum is also reflected outside. Museums are a central point to have international recognition, and they are an act of advertising for the city, more than an act for locals. Attractive architecture, a must-see zone for visit, but with consequences. I always loved art and artists. They can make us reflect about different deep problematics. But sometimes what is displayed inside is not embedded as a principle from the institution. Looking at the basis of the foundation of museum, sometimes there are unethical sponsorship. And while speaking about decolonization and inclusivity, some exhibition spaces are still part of a colonial machinery. What's the point of sharing all of this? I finally understood that museums speak to us with a curatorial voice. Through the label that we read, the path that we follow, the narratives that it creates, they are a magic space and they look perfect. But perfection doesn't exist. This is a strategy. And curating indeed can be considered as a regime of attention. So my question is, if there is still the possibility to create a space and a room to escape that perfect frame, a space in which we can go beyond what the museums say to us. And here it comes the curatorial hacking, a simple methodology based on the abstraction from the materiality to create new relations. And this was a simple example of it, I just spoke in the way museums speak, with a selection of works, to say what museums do not say. The curatorial hacking is meant to transform the audience into a museum user, no more lost in the imposed form of narration, but empowered and able to experience the museum with their own approach. It's all a matter of perspective, and museums trap us in their perspective. The curatorial hacking can be every attempt to antagonize the attention, with the aim of creating a new extended vision that can go beyond the museum perfect framing. The curatorial hacking is just a different gaze, is claiming a different space, is the freedom from the museum mark, is the attraction of the distraction.